Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Let's take a quick look here again at SUI, see what's going on. We saw a pretty significant pullback here. That was a fundamental catalyst. If you didn't catch it, $220 million was stolen. So that kind of caused a significant retracement there, but it's since been kind of settled, if you will, because they froze roughly 160 million of that stolen property. So hypothetically, at this point, the price should continue higher up because we're maintaining above our macro point of control here, but it's all very early to say. So once more, we're going to take a look at the back-end liquidation data and kind of just look at this abstractly here, make sure we understand kind of where we're going and take it from here. But keep in mind, when fundamental catalysts are included or involved, rather, it's generally best to avoid trading. It's just one of those things where things get kind of weird and iffy when emotions are involved. And when I say emotions, the reason why that's happening right now is because people don't know what to do. They're selling quickly because they think it's going to go underwater, and then there's some people are buying crazily because they haven't been able to. They feel like they missed the boat when we were in the $4 plus range. A lot of stuff can happen. So it's generally best to avoid this. So I'd recommend one professional trader to another. Don't trade these kind of situations. That's just the best practice. But what we want to look at here is key level supports, resistances, and liquidation ranges, and kind of see what the overall sentiment is to make an informed decision if you do decide to trade. Okay. So having said that, hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. Starting off with the last 7 days, let's go ahead and see here. 420 to 430 is that upper liquidation range for basically shorts, and then we got some longs at 340 to 360. These are just liquidation areas here, folks. These are where they're going to be liquidated if the price hits those levels. We can see it's a little more concentrated here. Let's make this a little clearer to see. We can see heavy concentration at what, 430 to 440. So that kind of runs consistent with our previous resistance or our highs, and that kind of is that area that I think that's probably more of a concentration that we're going to see here soon versus the price pulling back to this $2 to $3 range. I think sub $3 is outrageous. It's not really even a thought. So from a liquidation standpoint, we have more liquidation to the upside than the downside, implying further continuation higher. Once more, that's based on the fact that Bitcoin doesn't dump on us. I think 110,000 is likely a good key level support for Bitcoin, as weird as it sounds, because there's just so much volume in Bitcoin right now at that 110, 109K range, that there's a distinct probability we're going to sustain that level, and some alts are going to continue higher, specifically those that have a good, a good backing here, which SUI is one of those. Either way you look at it here, we can see liquidation delta was high to the upside. Now it went down to the low side. Now it's pretty close to break even. So we're just slightly more shorts than longs at this moment. So that's that basically implies that a breakout is inevitable. Okay. Oftentimes when you squeeze and compress with liquidation delta, it's hard to say specifically which way it's going to go, but it usually goes in the same direction it was heading. Okay. And at this point here, we can see 392, that's the current price point roughly. That's the heaviest concentration of open interest here locally. And we can see that reflected here with our point of control at roughly 390. So 390 is the support for this coin. And pending Bitcoin doesn't run to the downside, I think there's a distinct probability we bounce from this level and continue higher. You could even consider this a bullish backtest of the descending trend line. That's a joke, by the way. It's not really all that funny. Okay, so daily time frame. Let's take a look here. We can recognize a lot of aggressive candle wicks here. So when you see candle wicks to the upside and downside like this, it implies that this area is highly contested. So $4 we could presume is that significant resistance for us. But as we continue to doji candle out, or just essentially consolidate more effectively above that 390 range, there's a distinct probability we go higher. Okay. Now, once more, when you look at the overall sentiment here, this is not like a phenomenal situation. So the daily time frame isn't screaming like, oh, bullish convergence, you're going to take a long right now because there's so many signs. Not really. This coin, oddly enough, is kind of drawing dead here on the daily. What you can see, though, is, of course, the SMAs. We're above all SMAs. That's a good, sustainable sign. The 4-hour time frame also reflects here as well that we're maintaining above both moving averages, the important ones here locally, and that our RSI is still above 50. Okay. Now, when we look at the money flow index pulling back, that's really a difficult gauge here. That's a very significant, I wouldn't say manipulator, but it doesn't give us the right picture because of how the price action pulled back here recently. Money flowed away from this coin with good reason, right? Because that fundamental catalyst. But if we look at everything else, we can see stochastic swinging down, MACD diverging. The 4-hour time frame is telling us that we're seeing that shift in momentum. Once more, though, this is very premature. This is not a good indication because of just how much selling pressure we're seeing here. So as you get into lower time frames, you're going to see more manipulative patterns that are kind of indicating that you shouldn't that you shouldn't try to short this coin right now. Okay, that's the easy way to understand it. And with this here, we got our moving average range percentile. When this thing triggers here, oftentimes the price will turn around. So if anytime you look here, you can kind of see the price action is more likely to go higher when that occurs. Okay, and it's a significant amount of continuation. I don't have time to explain this indicator, but it's a very good good indication that we're overextended to the downside based on the volume and the amount of volume also that has come back in to support that level. That's kind of part of it. So I think we're more likely to continue higher here once more. It does depend on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin holds the $110,000 to $111,000 range, I feel SUI will continue higher. Just based on the overall situation here, we broke our descending trend line. We're over a lot of moving averages. While the 4-hour time frame is giving us some conflicting information, it's very standard to see that in manipulative situations. And no matter how you look at it, this was a fundamental manipulative pattern here, essentially, that a lot of people didn't have control over, and they're just responding emotionally. Okay, but the overall sentiment here is generally quite favorable, and I think there's probably more likelihood of the upper liquidation range to be hit before the lower liquidation gets hit. So that's just kind of my thoughts there. I hope I'm right in this case, obviously, for the sake of everyone. But for the most part, you want to trade responsibly. Use low position size, low leverage. When all-time highs are established, especially specifically with Bitcoin, altcoins tend to be emotional for a few days, and then there's like this realism of like, oh shoot, we're going to take some profits, and we're coming up on a weekend here soon. So just be aware of that. All right, folks, that's kind of what we got there. I'll post a playout chart on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. That's always available for you there. Be sure to check out Bitunix too. They got a really awesome promotion going on right now. Links down below for that. And we'll hope to see you in the next one. Thanks again so much. We'll see you soon. Take care.